I guess it'd be safe to assume you would have opposed the imposition of the Emergencies Act against Canadians who were protesting against the mandates.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, the invocation of the Emergency Act does not meet the letter of the law, in that there's other pieces of legislation that are able to deal with it, in that there was no prevalent national emergency that was dangerous to uh, many lives or safety of Canadians. And to add insult to injury, the emergency itself was invoked by Parliament after the alleged emergency was over. When I think back to the invocation of the Emergencies Act, I think back to February 18th, which was probably a very difficult day for many Canadians, including myself, to watch truly peaceful protesters be handled in that manner by police. But I think a wonderful thing has also happened that day, in that we saw that there was no injuries to the police, there was no resistance by the protesters, and that they peacefully accepted regretfully the regretful conduct of the police, and had vindicated all of those that have accused this movement, be it the mainstream media or the government, and proved that indeed that was a peaceful movement, and that is how we'll choose to remember it, and hope that history will reflect on it appropriately.
Yeah, I believe. I mean, hopefully we'll see some investigations and look back and really get a clear picture of what happened there, because we can't let this be swept under the rug. Such an unprecedented and dangerous move in Canadian history.
Look, we've seen regretfully a lot of overreach by the federal government. I think what's most regretful is that Justin Trudeau, or in fact no level of government, had the decency or the leadership to speak to the truckers or anyone else there about the reason they were there, which is mandates. And I'm on record. In fact, I'm the only politician, to my knowledge, in Canada that brought legislation to protect workers against workplace mandates. And in Ontario, unfortunately, my Jobs and Jabs bill was defeated by the Doug Ford Conservative government on second reading. But no one had the decency to speak to them about the reason they were there, which is their ability to put food on the table without doing something against their will. And that is a trite proposition that I would think most Canadians would agree with. And it's regretful that the conversation had delineated to this discourse.
Yeah, there's a lot of lives, unfortunately, been very disrupted and ruined through all of that. So I'll pivot back though to some more broad concern. As I've been asking other candidates on some of those federal issues, and we come quite often from a regional approach. Of course, we're a Western publication, and there's been a lot of regional, unrest, I guess you could say, from the West. Some of these issues, well, one's a little bit regional, but it was I might as well jump right to that because I was talking about it just before you came on, and that's our supply management system. That's been, an issue and problematic for some people and dairy producers, well, dairy consumers for some years now. Would you be willing to start looking towards dismantling that?
I don't know. I'll have some consultations on that issue, but I certainly appreciate that. I think that the global supply chain has been disrupted by lockdowns and government overreach, and then regretfully, when you reopen the market, then you obviously have a great deal of demand, and that in part causes a significant appreciation in pricing. But I think that generally, I think Ottawa needs to rethink the way it deals with the West. I'm going to embrace Canada's natural resources. I will not let oil and gas be cancelled. I think our natural resources are a blessing, and not just energy. I think we need to develop mining for precious metals that are very much needed right now around the world. We need to stop buying resources from rogue regimes, not just to fix our balance sheet, but I think doing so will be better for the planet because Canada will do it safer and cleaner than anyone else in the world. I think we need to repeal Bill C-69 to build new pipelines and to ensure that all provinces, are included in the national conversation.
Great. So I'm going to move on to Senate for a moment, and something I've asked every candidate as well. In Alberta, we've had a tradition for quite some time of going through the motions, at least, of electing our senators to nominate, I guess, as a province to put forward. Sometimes that's actually succeeded, and we've had some who were appointed after we've elected, and other times we haven't. The Liberals are very strongly against that. But would you commit as a leader and assuming, presumably, eventually Prime Minister, to appoint elected senators from provinces, whether Alberta or otherwise?
I think, as someone who's very interested in the Charter and Canada's Constitution, I am a lawyer by profession. I practiced for 12 years prior to my election to Parliament, primarily in commercial and civil litigation. I think that perhaps a national conversation may be in order about the role of the Senate. I think that, if anything, the role of the Senate has been magnified subsequent to the invocation of the Emergencies Act, because I'm of the view, and I suspect that in fact uh, Justin Trudeau withdrew the legislation, and because he didn't have the votes in the Senate, and so it appears as if the House of sober second thought, as our first Prime Minister referred to it, may have much greater role to play in our democracy than we frankly thought. And so I think that, as Prime Minister, I will engage in robust conversation to see what, not just what makes sense for Canada and Canada's democracy, which is the principal reason why I'm in the CPC leadership race, but also to see what our provincial partners might be thinking, and what is on the table. I would not want to presuppose that outcome, but I certainly think that there's room to improve Canada's democracy.
Okay, and then going further, we also had a referendum here in Alberta recently on equalization. Most of the province, at least the citizens, feel that the program, the way it's set up right now, hasn't been fair to Alberta and much of the West. And we do understand it's constitutionally entrenched, but the formula is within the authority of the federal government to calculate, and it doesn't feel like it has served us well. Would you look at equalization reform?
I would certainly look to have a conversation with all provinces about where we are, but I think that we need to have a greater conversation beyond equalization, and that is, I think that uh, I'm running on restoring not just Canada's democracy, which I feel is has been eroded, but also Canadian opportunity, and that's by way of housing, by way of access to healthcare. We know that Canada has one of the lowest number of beds per capita in the OECD countries. I think we need to look at energy and the way that we transport energy across the country, and frankly, allow every province to be included in the national conversation. And that would probably include a discussion as to how we do equalization in our country.
Okay. Uh, Something that came out kind of out of the blue, but I mean, it was refreshing to see something new in a leadership race, but I didn't quite anticipate it. But was when Mr. Polyev mentioned expanding the role of digital currencies or encouraging it and things such as that. Do you see a role in embracing further with digital currencies within Canada, or how it should be regulated or dealt with?
So I respect and like human ingenuity. And when it comes specifically to cryptocurrency, I would suggest that I would encourage the progress that we're making as Canadians on cryptocurrency, as long as it meets principal conditions, which is transparency in the market and equal access to the market. Then I'm in favor of that. What I am, however, concerned with is any friction by government as to the ability of Canada's citizens to use digital currency or currency generally. That's the nature of cash, is that it is negotiable. And that means that it's non-negotiable. It doesn't matter who uses a $20 bill or where they use it. It's just as good a $20 bill anywhere or by anyone. And it's that nature of currency that I do not wish for government to interfere in any way. I think that in the last couple of years, we have seen a great erosion of rights and freedoms around the country. And I do not believe that we want to go down the path where government has any friction as to how Canadians deal with their monetary currency.
Okay, so going a little wider into foreign affairs, which of course is very pressing right now. We've got a terrible situation going on in Eastern Europe in particular. And sort of in a broader question, what do you see as Canada's role on the international scene? Like, are we to be something of a military power, a peacekeeper, an intervener, or staying clear? Where do we land, and where do you see Canada in the future?
Sure. Well, my mom's family is from Ukraine, and I myself was born in Russia when it was still the Soviet Union. And I'm very heartbroken by the events in Ukraine. And we're witnessing a catastrophic loss of life and infrastructure. And I believe that first and foremost, there needs to be a greater effort to end the conflict. And so I'm glad that negotiations are ongoing, but I think we have to bring the parties to a ceasefire. With respect to Canada's general role in the world, I think that I would not be in favor of interventionism, but I would want to broadcast a hopeful message of human rights and Canada's democracy around the world. However, I think that that opportunity is now eroded because Canada's credibility on the world stage as a democratic nation has eroded. And so we can't be advocates for democracy around the world where 3.5 million Canadians cannot board a plane because of their medical status, or when folks are losing jobs daily because they made a different medical choice. And so I think that before we can restore Canada's standing around the world, and before we can be a credible voice in international affairs for the better, we have to restore Canada's democracy.
Great. I'll kind of finish here perhaps with one more kind of economic question. Since I just remembered it's April 1st, our carbon taxes went up yet again. Where do you stand on carbon taxes and pricing in the future?
So I oppose the carbon tax. Today's increased, I think, the price of a liter of gas by about 2.2 cents to a total of 11 cents per liter, just vis-a-vis carbon. And look, I'm on record. I do not believe that taxing Sally at the gas pump or making everything more expensive by virtue of the carbon tax will do anything for global temperatures. And so it's regretful at a time when life in Canada is already unaffordable, and especially with the price appreciation and the price inflation that we're seeing in the last couple of years as a result of us overprinting money and a result of the jolting in the market resulting from lockdowns and then reopening of the economy, that we would further burden the consumer with what I believe to be effectively a virtue signaling measure.
Great. So just in kind of wrapping up, it's going to be a long campaign. It's going all the way till September 10th there. It's quite the marathon. Can we look forward to you coming out west at sometime soon?
Absolutely. I anticipate being in Manitoba over the next couple of weeks. I then believe I have a trip to Saskatchewan. And also, we are just in the process of finalizing a trip to Alberta literally in the next 2 weeks. And I'm looking forward to having conversations all around the country. I think that we are in a very, I would say that we are in a very challenging time for Canada's democracy. I think that without democracy, we don't have anything. And it's not just democracy that's being eroded, it's Canada's opportunity. If I may take a moment, I'm an immigrant to Canada. I came here when I was 15, and I had every opportunity to work, to succeed, to join a small business, to be elected from the very electoral district that welcomed me as an immigrant. And I don't think that many Canadians feel the same optimism that I felt about our freedoms and economic opportunity.
Okay, well, that's excellent. I do appreciate you putting yourself out there. We got such a wide range of candidates this time around. It makes it hard, but the more we can talk to it and I'm a free market person, and it comes to that with democracy. The more we get in there, I like to think that the best will get in the end. So, where can people find more information about yourself and your campaign, Mr. Baber?
Well, our website is just being finalized, but I do see the temporary homepage at www.joinroman.ca. That's joinroman.ca. But of course, folks cannot give us their vote unless they register to vote with the Conservative Party of Canada, and they can do that at our portal at joinroman.ca/now.